Hi folks, Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Welcome back to the vlog. But I said fog, and I've been in a fog working on this 2-rail O-scale layout. Well, at least the wiring's all in, the turnouts are in, and it's time to work on switch machines and controls. These little guys are touch toggles by Barrett Hill Trains, and we've used them on every layout over the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, they may be 10 years old. Unlike the supervisor here, who's been with me for 15 years. I think she's ready for a nap. If you'd like more information on Barrett Hill's touch toggles, see the link in the description or a previous video right here on the channel. I'm sure I left off in the previous video about this layout that I had some temporary track pieces in there because I had to order a couple of turnouts. Because of space considerations or lack thereof, on this layout all turnouts had to be cut down to fit in the spot in which they reside. This is where we're at with all the turnouts installed. Those industry sidings are just temporarily in place until I figure out how I want the scene to appear. So, naturally, I did a little bit of switching the other night, and it was a real pain. The turnout controls, being those touch toggles, are going to be mounted flush on the fascia of the layout here. I haven't decided if it's going to be in a little picture frame like a previous layout, or these little cups that you're going to see here in a minute. So we have the touch toggles here, and then here we have a bunch of switch machines here. Now this is a plate I made, so this will go up under the table here. You'll see up under there, it'll go up under there. It's kind of hard to do, but that's why I made these little plates here on the laser, so I can glue this to the gator board before I put the screws in. That way it holds it up. It's the easiest way I can think of to use that. And then if we can find these things, let's see here. Okay, so this is that's a touch toggle cup. It's really nothing more than a little cup where the touch toggle is mounted to the back, and it makes it so you can recess this inside the fascia. You know, so it makes it flush mounted. So now I have the test wires hooked up, this little DC power pack, and I'll throw the Now let's be honest, there's a lot of different types of switch machines and a lot of methods for installation. This is just the way I do it. The reason I'm calling this a how-I video instead of a how-to video because it's a little different. I'm using gator board as my sub-road bed as opposed to plywood, so everything's a little bit different. Alright, for this so-called demonstration I'm using this very old Tortoise switch machine by Circuitron. I've had trouble saying that about 5 times now. Tortoise. And this ON30 turnout. It's a micro-engineering turnout, so it's got those snap-in-place points. But that's okay, we'll use it anyway. Just keep in mind that I'm just showing how I mount the switch machines on a layout. We're not doing anything with wiring or setup or anything else like that. So these switch machines, which I think most of them do, come with some kind of instructions and maybe even a template. The Tortoise switch machines come with this template, and if you print it at actual size, not fit on the page, but actual size, you can actually use this template on the layout. Duh, that's what it's for. Obviously, the idea is for you to put this piece of paper on your layout and use that as a guide for where you need to drill your holes. Now, it and of itself, it's a great idea, but I went a step further a few years ago and I made this little basswood template. I mean, come on, it's better than a little piece of paper. But what's neat about it is once I started using gator board as my sub road bed, I used these to help reinforce the area under the gator board where the switch machine goes. So in essence, when I'm using gator board, I can kill two birds with one stone. I wouldn't do that, but I could. And obviously, if you were using plywood for your sub road bed, using those plates as extra support would just kind of be overkill. And when I say support, I'm not talking about the strength of the gator board itself. I'm just talking about the strength of the mounting point where the switch machine goes. As I mentioned, these switch machines are very old, so as you can see, it's got a lot of built-up solder and other crap on there. I'm going to make it easy on ourselves, and we're going to use a Barrett Hill adapter for this. This is a neat little gadget that allows you to screw your main wires into instead of having to solder them. It just slips right over it like that. I'm not going to get into the whole capabilities of the tortoise switch machine, but with this little adapter, you can still use the other mounting points that are on that machine. You know, for power routing and electrifying your frog and that sort of thing. Ugh. To be honest with you, I haven't read these instructions in a long time, so I don't know what their terminology is, but this wire is actually the, I guess they call it the throw wire, something like that. Good grief, now I'm having trouble saying the word fictitious. I'm going to draw in this fictitious center line here. Alright, moving along, we're going to line the turn up here. Oh my God. I will line up the turnout and mark the throw bar points. It really doesn't matter what side of the turnout the switch machine is on. More than anything, it probably depends on what you have under the layout, like stringers or cross members, things like that. But you can mount them both ways on either side. I'm simply poking a hole through the gator board where that wire is going to go, but obviously if you're using plywood, you're going to have to drill that hole. Either way, whether I'm using gator board or plywood, I'm going to drill that main wire hole first, because that lines everything up, and then I can go through and mark where the screw holes are going to be. Of course, if you've already permanently mounted the turnout, it's going to be a little tougher to line these holes up, and you're going to have to do it a different way, but this is the best way to do it before you put the turnout in. When I say best way, I mean best way for me. I usually use a slightly larger drill bit than what's called for in the instructions, and I do that just because it gives me a little extra playroom. For those of you that have installed your share of switch machines, you're probably looking at this and going, what the heck is he doing? I know it's unorthodox, but we're using gator board here, and it makes it easier. By putting the screws in from the top, when I go to install the switch machine underneath, it lines it up. Makes it easy. The screws are in just enough to make sure they go into those little slots. If you'll remember, I'm using these little basswood plates that are going to go on here. So I'm going to screw these screws in just a little bit more to make sure they line up with the plate. Yep, this method is a little bit weird, but it works. What's he going to do next? What's he going to do next? Well, this plate is going to be glued to the top of the switch machine first. I'll get everything lined up and make it one solid piece. The switch machines, when they were new, probably came with some screws, but the ones that I'm using are just long enough to go through the basswood and the gator board and secure it. Obviously, you want the screws to be able to go through the materials, but you don't want it popping up through your cork road bed or hitting your track or something like that. I know it's odd. It's an oddity. There's probably some guy out there saying I should be on Ripley's Believe It or Not. But to secure this, all I do is add a little bit of super glue to the top of that basswood and stick it in place. Now I know it's lined up because those screws are poking down through there as guides. So the big question, ta-da! Why am I using super glue? To hold it in place temporarily so I don't have to hold the switch machine and a screwdriver at the same time. That's not hard. Yes, it is, underneath the layout, upside down. Alright, enough of that. I'm using a battery, a 9-volt battery, to test this switch machine out before I put the turnout on. It works fine. There's plenty of room for that wire. And then now we can test it with the turnout in place. Aha! It all comes together and you figured out exactly why I used this method. It used to be a two-man job. One underneath, one on top, trying to get it lined up. Now it's not so hard. At least for me it's not. Not anymore. Be sure to subscribe, stay tuned, and share the hobby. This is Joey Ricard with TracksideScenery.com. Thanks for watching. See you next time.